Hello and welcome to me in the office on a Saturday afternoon. It's gloriously sunny and cold, and that's why I'm wearing my parka in the office. It's because I forgot to turn on the heating for the weekend, and we have underfloor heating, which is dead posh, except it takes about 5 hours to warm up. But hooray, luckily I have a ready supply of warm things called jackets, what I do design. So that's good. Anyway, I wanted to talk about mental health. So it's funny because it just feels like sometimes that I just bare my soul about everything that happens in my life. And trust me, I don't really want to do that, but I feel it is my responsibility. It's not the worst thing in the world, and I always preach that the hardest thing is to say something, and the best thing to do is, once you've said it, is you'll feel better. That makes sense. But so I was thinking back to first principles of FRAHM, and obviously the main thing we do is to make jackets, but it's also about helping men with their mental health. And one of the biggest ways I can help, apart from giving money to Mind, is to show that you can talk about it. I'm, a middle-aged bloke. I didn't feel particularly comfortable about talking about mental health. Then I decided I should do, because that was really important. And so I wanted to talk about having a panic attack about 10 days ago, a bit longer. And it's taken that time to think about whether I'm going to do this or not, because I didn't really want to. It's my private life, and it's sort of embarrassing, even though it shouldn't be. So here goes. Anyway, and I guess also because I have a little bit of a problem with the word panic, in the context of I hate flapping. When things go wrong, people sort of lose their minds and start running around with their hair on fire. That really does my head in. Whether that's a prejudice or not, because people react to certain situations in different ways that you often can't control. But I am luckily one of those people who tends to be really solid when things go really badly wrong. Short term, you're probably the sort of person you want around, sadly, for a car accident, or in the past, having a gun put to my head and things like that. I'm pretty calm in those situations. But there's a different kind of panic, which is a kind of anxiety-based, well, it's a panic attack, which actually has nothing to do with just panic in immediacy. Panic attacks tend to happen, again, I'm no professional, but from what I know in my experience, it's something that happens when you have this sort of grinding layers of worry, anxiety that sort of add up. And I think it's a sort of pressure valve, really. I certainly treat it as that. And it's a kind of bang on the head, and it's like, hey, mate, you really need to watch yourself, because you're starting to push the edge of your sort of mental health, and maybe nastier things can happen. So, hey, what happened? So, sadly, it was my son's birthday, his 8th birthday, under lockdown. It lasted a relatively short period, but it made the kids a bit worried. We were out for a walk for his birthday, and I just suddenly felt really tight-chested, and I just couldn't breathe, and my sort of vision was going, and probably because I was hyperventilating, and I just felt really ill. Really, really ill, and my whole body ached, and I got really dizzy, and I actually passed out, which has never happened to me before. I've had a few panic attacks. Last one I had was in the spring of 2017, when things were going really badly in my life, so certainly worse than they are now. And I recognise now that probably what I thought was asthma, because I was misdiagnosed with asthma, was actually I was having repeated panic attacks as I was under immense stress in my old business. Anyway, so I just felt really awful, and then I just fell over in front of the kids, and that was really sweet, because my daughter, who's 5, was all over me, and she was like, "Daddy, I'll help you. I'm sorry you feel ill," and all this stuff, and you don't want to do that in front of your kids or worry them. And I was with Emma Lou, and yeah, I think she recognised it a bit more than me, and I don't think she's seen me per se have a panic attack, but she's aware of them. It's not a common thing for me. I probably had 4 in my life. I realise now, actually, thinking about it, maybe I've had more if I'm talking about asthma attacks. Fuck knows. Anyway, I think this was a panic attack. And it made sense to me afterwards, once I'd calmed down, when I sort of added up these layers that I'm talking about of worry or anxiety or just pressure. And I think the reason I had that was sort of pressure. It felt like my brain was being stretched like elastic. And basically what's been going on recently is a lot of pretty negative stuff and layers of tiredness and stress, and then actually really positive stuff. And weirdly, growing a company and seeing success and seeing that work is weirdly stressful. It's it's particularly stressful when you don't expect it to happen. Maybe we're selling more jackets because people are going outside more often. Maybe you're going on a walk, or maybe it's just because our reputation has started really, building, and we've had more press or whatever. I don't really know, but we are basically quadrupling in size at the moment. And that's in itself actually quite hard to get your head around. It's pretty extraordinary. And so I felt like the world was kind of on fire. You've got lockdown and you've got COVID and people dying there, and I kind of think that our leadership are a bunch of twits, and I'm not a fan of them, and so you feel like your life is in the hands of people who don't actually care whether you live or die, as Morrissey once said. And you've got the US elections, and there was this sort of insurrection there, and that was a bit bonkers. And basically we came back into the new year thinking, right, let's get on with it. Let's make a plan. Hopefully we can do okay in January, because January is generally a dead month. And came back and it went bonkers, but also suddenly lockdown. So suddenly me and Emma Lou, who run the entire company by ourselves, both of us within the same family unit, are now looking after our kids. So we got half the time. And so we know from experience now that it isn't quite the sort of, actually, it's sort of simplifying our life. It's a nice sunny spring. It's January. It's shitty weather. And, we're fucking knackered now. So now we're going to be more knackered. And so it's kind of intimidating. But we're doing really well, so we shouldn't worry so much. But I sort of am. And so it just meant that there was too much to process within a very short period. Everything was suddenly changing, in those first 2 weeks of January. Add to that, because we were so busy, I stopped doing the really, really important things to keep you healthy, mentally and physically, which are exercise, which is very important for me. I'm an extremely keen cyclist. I love going to the gym. I love doing weights. I love walking long way. I'll basically do as much exercise as I can manage in my life. And I wasn't doing any, which is really bad for me and anyone. You've got to get out. You've got to do stuff. So I haven't been drinking, so I wasn't drinking, which is also a sort of not great thing for your mental health, but that was fine. And then also I wasn't sleeping. I wasn't sleeping, I don't think, through worry. It's just because there was so much to process. I was like, oh my God, we're doing really well. What have I got to put in place to do? And how do I staff, how do we sort out service, and how do we help with production, and all these different facets of the business. And actually, I find it fascinating. I was literally staying up until 1 a.m, working in bed with my head whirring away, just really enjoying the process of working out what to do next. But that is, it's a short runway to fucking yourself up. And so under this sort of background of not looking after myself, having a lot of sort of background stressors, positive and negative, and then got to my son's birthday, and I think what sort of pushed me over the edge is we got woken up early in the morning by someone nicking our barbecue, like the fucking cunts. It's like, a barbecue doesn't make that much difference to me in my life. I just have to buy another barbecue and get another gas bottle. But it's the fact that someone nicked it. We live in a really nice, friendly area. And suddenly you think, maybe it's not as nice and not as friendly, and it's a bit shit, and it's my son's birthday, and la la la. And then it's just my son's birthday. And, I don't want to get too cod psychological, but there's a lot of sort of stuff going on in the background from, like us all, things we think about. And being 8 years old for me was a pretty shit time, actually. I had a lot of problems when I was that age, and my son's 8. I desperately don't want him to go through the stuff I went through, and so there's a lot going on. It's just too much going on. Your brain can only process so much. Sadly, we're not as intelligent as we'd like to be. We just can't get through everything in a snap of fingers. We have to slowly process and cogitate and put things in boxes and understand them. And when there's a lot going on at once, and you've got various sort of, backgrounds from childhood and all this kind of stuff, what happens is when you're tired, when you're stressed, when you're not doing the right things, those little things start to creep in and they start to affect you rather than them just being part of daily life and things you deal with. And so, I just wanted my son to have a nice birthday as well. It's an emotional event. It's nice. So all this just meant there was hormones kicking about. I was tired, a bit stressed, and we went for a walk, and I had a panic attack. And the reason, and so what I did after that was that I thought, okay, I better take better care of myself. It's going to be a little bit tricky because, I can't change lockdown. I'm still running a business and we're still really busy, but I've got to do exercise. And to be fair on myself, I wasn't cycling in because it had been so cold. I was really worried about slipping on the ice, and frankly, breaking my pelvis is going to have a pretty big effect on me and the family and the business. So I don't want to do that. But the weather changed. I've been riding in. I've rode my bike 6 times in the last week to and from work, which has been great, made a massive difference. I bought myself some weights so I can do better at, weights, which I really enjoy at home, and, try to sleep better, which I've been reasonably successful at. But that's made the difference. And just talking about it, telling Emma Lou about it, thinking about it, the fact that Biden now seems to be in government and nobody has tried to kill him yet, and all that kind of stuff, just little bits. And so instead of being in the red, and you go too far in the red, you have a nervous breakdown, or you become suicidal, or you become depressed, or a multitude of different mental health problems. Instead of just edging towards the red, I've just gone back into the black. And I certainly wouldn't say this is the easiest time. We're still very busy. I've got a lot of things to sort out, but I enjoy sorting those things out. Lockdown's a bit shit the second time round. I think for all of us, it's much harder. At least I run my own business, so I don't have the pressure of people, forcing you to, to work or to furlough or, whatever that may be, having to take your kids to school or can't take your kids to school, etc. It's all fairly laid out for us. Either way, we all have our different problems. But I have got that extra 10% back that means that I can deal with stuff. And I think the biggest point I want to make is I am not a mentally ill person right now. It is a sliding scale. I am not seriously ill. But it doesn't take an enormous amount. It just takes those few layers of events to push you into a space that maybe you've never had a panic attack. Maybe you're very familiar, sadly, with panic attacks and they're quite regular for you. But it's about this self-awareness, about reading up, about talking to people, about getting help, and understanding that you've got to stop yourself from going too far along that scale. When that gets there, how do you pull back? What do you have to give up? Whether that's booze or some of your work, or for some people, it's very, very hard to find any way to pull back. You gotta sacrifice something. You've got to tell your boss you're just not going to do that thing, or you've got to go to bed at a better time, and just say to your partner, I'm really sorry, but I'm absolutely knackered and I really need that sleep. And tell them, if you live with someone, what's going on. It is, I think, embarrassing for most people to have... I'm embarrassed about general problems. I'm embarrassed if I twist my ankle and I have to go to the doctors. I don't want to do that. I'm a pretty typical bloke. I don't want to go to the doctors. Again, going back to what I said at the beginning, people assume I'm just super comfortable with talking about mental health. And I'm not. What I've decided is I should do, that it is important to. And the very fact that I find it hard and that other men find it hard gives me more reason that I should be talking about it. So, at the danger of repeating myself, I bet I should finish. I am okay. I am fine. You don't need to send sympathetic messages. That's very nice if you do. I just want you to look after yourself. Analyse yourself. Think about it. Talk to other people. Find out where you are right now. If you have a panic attack, talk to a medical professional, a doctor about it. Check it is a panic attack. I don't want you to presume that if you start having heart palpitations or something, it's just psychological, because it may not be. I don't know. And just, be aware and do the right stuff. So to sign off, thank you very much for making us really busy. It's great. I really, really appreciate it. And you know what? I think another little stressor is I feel guilty about that. I feel guilty that we're doing so well when other people aren't. But I think we're being reasonably nice about it. And I think and I hope that we're doing something to help. And we're trying our best. So maybe I shouldn't feel too guilty. Don't know. Anyway, all the best. look after yourself, get the fuck outside, do some fucking exercise, because those are the big things that can make a big difference, and talk. And sorry for the swearing. I always swear. Take care. Bye.